Welcome back, in part 3 of Shell. Following the purchase of an offshore lease in 2005, Shell initiated its US $4.5 billion Arctic drilling program in 2006 after the corporation purchased the Kuluk oil rig and leased the Noble Discoverer drillship.
At inception, the project was led by Pete Slickey, a Shell executive who had previously worked in the North Sea.
However, after the purchase of a second offshore lease in 2008, Shell only commenced drilling work in 2012 due to the refurbishment of rigs, permit delays from the relevant authorities and lawsuits.
The plans to drill in the Arctic led to protests from environmental groups, particularly Greenpeace. Furthermore, analysts in the energy field, as well as related industries, also expressed skepticism due to perceptions that drilling in the region is too dangerous because of harsh conditions and remote locations.
Further problems hampered the Arctic project after the commencement of drilling in 2012. Shell dealt with a series of issues that involved air permits, Coast Guard certification of a marine vessel, and severe damage to essential oil spill equipment.
Additionally, difficult weather conditions resulted in the delay of drilling during mid-2012, and the already dire situation was exacerbated by the Kuluk incident at the end of the year.
Shell had invested nearly US $5 billion by this stage of the project. As the Kuluk oil rig was being towed to the American state of Washington to be serviced in preparation for the 2013 drilling season, a winter storm on 27 December 2012 caused the towing crews, as well as the rescue service, to lose control of the rig.
As of 1 January 2013, the Kuluk was grounded off the coast at Kaladak Island, near the eastern end of Kodak Island.
Following the accident, a Fortune magazine contacted Larry McKinney, the executive director at the Hart Research Institute for Gulf of Mexico Studies at Texas A&M. And he explained that a 2-month delay in the Arctic is not a 2-month delay. A 2-month delay could wipe out the entire drilling season. It was unclear if Shell would recommence drilling in mid-2015 following the Kuluk incident, and in February 2015, the corporation stated that it would pause its closely watched drilling project off the Alaskan coast in 2015 and will instead prepare for future exploration.
In January 2014, the corporation announced the extension of the suspension of its drilling program in the Arctic, with Chief Executive Van Doornen explaining that the project is under review due to both market and internal issues.
A June 2014 interview with Pickard indicated that, following a forensic analysis of the problems encountered in 2012, Shell will continue with the project, and Pickard stated that she perceives the future of the corporation activity in the Arctic region as a long-term marathon.
Pickard stated that the forensic look-back revealed there was an on/off switch, and further explained,
in other words, don't spend the money unless you're sure you're going to have a legal environment to go forward. Don't spend the money unless you're sure you're going to have the permit. No, I can't tell you that I'm going to have that permit until June, but we need to plan like we're going to have that permit in June. And so probably the biggest lesson is to make sure we could smooth out the on/off switches wherever we could and take control of our own destiny.
Based upon the interview with Pickard, Shell is approaching the project as an investment that will reap energy resources with a lifespan of around 30 years. According to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management report in 2015, the chances of a major spill in the deep-sea Arctic drilling is 75% before century's end. In 2010, Greenpeace activists painted no Arctic drilling using still BP oil on the side of a ship in the Gulf of Mexico that was en route to explore for Arctic oil for Shell.
At the protest, Phil Radford of Greenpeace called for President Obama to ban all offshore oil drilling and call for an end to the use of oil in our cars by 2030.
On 16 March 2012, 52 Greenpeace activists from 5 different countries boarded Fennica Nordica multi-purpose icebreakers chartered to support Shell's drilling rigs near Alaska.
Around the same time period, a reporter for Fortune magazine spoke with Edward Ida, an immediate leader and the former mayor of the North Slope Borough, who expressed that he was conflicted about Shell's plans in the Arctic, as he was concerned that an oil spill could destroy the immediate people's hunting and fishing culture. But his borough also received major tax revenue from oil and gas production. Additionally, further revenue from energy activity was considered crucial to the future of the living standard in his community.
In July 2012, Greenpeace activists shut down 53 Shell petrol stations in Edinburgh and London in a protest against the company's plans to drill for oil in the Arctic.
Greenpeace's Save the Arctic campaign aims to prevent oil drilling and industrial fishing in the Arctic by declaring the uninhabited area around the North Pole a global sanctuary.
A review was announced after the Culloch oil rig ran aground near Kodak Island in December 2012. In response, Shell filed lawsuits to seek injunctions from possible protests, and Benjamin Jealous of the NAACP in Radford argued that the legal action was trampling Americans' rights.
According to Greenpeace, Shell lodged a request with Google to take down video footage of a Greenpeace protest action that occurred at the Shell-sponsored Formula One F1 Belgian Grand Prix on 25 August 2013, in which SaveTheArctic.org banners appear at the winner's podium ceremony.
In the video, the banners rise up automatically. Activists control their appearance with the use of 4 radio car antennas, revealing the website URL alongside an image that consists of half of a polar bear's head and half of the Shell logo. Shell then announced a pause in the timeline of the project in early 2013, and in September 2015, the corporation announced the extension of the suspension of its drilling program in the Arctic. A June 2014 interview with the corporation's new executive vice president of the Arctic indicated that Shell will continue with its activity in the region. In Seattle, protests began in May 2015 in response to the news that the Port of Seattle made an agreement with Shell to berth rigs at the port's Terminal 5 during the off-season of oil exploration in Alaskan waters.
The arrival of Shell's new Arctic drilling vessel, Polar Pioneer, IMO number 8754140. A semi-submersible offshore drilling rig was greeted by large numbers of environmental protesters paddling kayaks in Elliott Bay.
On 6 May 2015, it was reported that during a Coast Guard inspection of Polar Pioneer, a piece of anti-pollution gear failed, resulting in fines and delay of the operation.
Oil executives from Total 180, interviewed by the New York Times, expressed skepticism about Shell's new ambitions for offshore drilling in the Arctic and cited economic and environmental hurdles.
ConocoPhillips and Equinor, formerly Statoil, suspended Arctic drilling earlier after Shell's failed attempt in 2012. On 20 May 2011, Shell's final investment decision for the world's first floating liquefied natural gas (FLNG) facility was finalized following the discovery of the remote offshore Prelude field, located off Australia's northwestern coast and estimated to contain about 3 trillion cubic feet of natural gas equivalent reserves in 2007.
FLNG technology is based on liquefied natural gas (LNG) developments that were pioneered in the mid-20th century and facilitates the exploitation of untapped natural gas reserves located in remote areas, often too small to extract any other way.
The floating vessel to be used for the Prelude field, known as Prelude FLNG, is promoted as the longest floating structure in the world and will take in the equivalent of 110,000 barrels of oil per day in natural gas. At a location 200 kilometers, 125 miles, off the coast of Western Australia, and cool it into liquefied natural gas for transport and sale in Asia.
The Prelude is expected to start producing LNG in 2017. Analysts estimated the total cost of construction at more than US $12 billion.
Following the decision by the Shell Fuel Corporation to close its Geelong oil refinery in Australia in April 2015, a third consecutive annual loss was recorded for Shell's Australian refining and fuel marketing assets.
Revealed in June 2015, the write-down is worth 203 million Australian dollars and was preceded by a 638 million Australian dollars write-down in 2012 and a 407 million Australian dollars write-down in 2011 after the closure of the Clyde refinery in Sydney, Australia.
In February 2014, Shell sold its Australian refinery and petrol stations for US $2.6 billion, 2.9 billion Australian dollars, to Swiss company Vitol. At the time of the downstream sale to Vitol, Shell was expected to continue investment into Australian upstream projects, with projects that involve Chevron Core, Woodside Petroleum and Prelude.
In June 2014, Shell sold 9.5% of its 23.1% stake in Woodside Petroleum and advised that it had reached an agreement for Woodside to buy back 9.5% of its shares at a later stage.
Shell became a major shareholder in Woodside after a 2001 takeover attempt was blocked by then Federal Treasurer Peter Costello, and the corporation has been open about its intention to sell its stake in Woodside as part of its target to shed assets.
At a general body meeting held on 1 August 2014, 72% of shareholders voted to approve the buyback, short of the 75% vote that was required for approval.
A statement from Shell read, Royal Dutch Shell acknowledges the outcome of Woodside Petroleum Limited shareholders' negative vote on the selective buyback proposal. Shell is reviewing its options in relation to its remaining 13.6% holding. Brunei Shell Petroleum, BSP, is a joint venture between the government of Brunei and Shell.
The British Malian Petroleum Company, the MPC, owned by Royal Dutch Shell, first found commercial amounts of oil in 1929.
It currently produces 350,000 barrels of oil and gas equivalent per day.
BSP is the largest oil and gas company in Brunei, a sector which contributes 90% of government revenue.
In 1954, the DMPC in Syria had a total of 1,277 European and Asian staff. The company has upstream operations in unconventional oil and gas in China.
Shell has a joint venture with PetroChina at the Changi tight gas field in Shaanxi, which has produced natural gas since 2008.
The company has also invested in exploring for shale oil in situ.
The other unconventional resource which Shell invested in China was shale.
The company was an early entrant in shale oil exploration in China but scaled down operations in 2014 due to difficulties with geology and population density.
It has a joint venture to explore for oil shale in Jilin through a joint venture with Jilin Guangjing Mineral Development Company Limited.
In May 2024, Shell announced an exit from China power market business to focus on more profitable operations. Shell has been active in Hong Kong for a century, providing retail, LPG, commercial fuel, lubricants, bitumen, aviation, marine and chemical services, and products.
Shell also sponsored the first Hong Kong built aircraft, inspiration for its around the world trip.
Shell India has inaugurated its new lubricants laboratory at its technology center in Bangalore. Shell started operating in Indonesia since 1928.
Shell started operating gas stations in Indonesia since 1 November 2005.
Its first gas station was located in Lito Karawasi, Tangerang.
On March 1, 2006, Shell opened a gas station in Jakarta located on Jalan S. Parman, Sleepy.
As of 2022, the fuels that Shell sells in Indonesia are Shell Super, Shell V-Power, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus, Shell V-Power Diesel and Shell Diesel Extra. Shell first started trading in Ireland in 1902.
Shell E&P Ireland, SEPIL, previously Enterprise Energy Ireland, is an Irish exploration and production subsidiary of Royal Dutch Shell.
Its headquarters are on Leeson Street in Dublin.
It was acquired in May 2002.
Its main project is the Carib Gas Project, a large gas field off the northwest coast, for which Shell has encountered controversy and protests in relation to the onshore pipeline and license terms. In 2005, Shell disposed of its entire retail and commercial fuels business in Ireland to Topaz Energy Group.
This included depots, company-owned petrol stations and supply agreement stations throughout the island of Ireland.
The retail outlets were rebranded as Topaz in 2008/9. The Topaz Fuel Network was subsequently acquired in 2015 by Couchiter, and these stations began rebranding to Circle K in 2018. Shell's activities in Italy began on 13 July 1912 with the creation of NAFTA, based in La Spezia, founded after taking advantage of the weakness of the former Standard Oil Trust, dissolved the previous year. During the First World War, NAFTA abandoned the private sector, focusing on the war supplies to the Italian state.
During the conflict, the company expanded with the opening of new plants in Naples and Augusta, and after the end of hostilities, with the exploitation of further internal deposits.
In the first post-war period, the company controlled the Italian internal market together with the SIAP, the local branch of the Standard of New Jersey, SO.
In 1921, under pressure from the CEO Giovanni Attilio Pozzo, then also elected president in 1923, the share capital was increased, reaching 100 million lire.
The products sold at the time included Antero Shell and Oriola Petroli. In 1922, despite the difficult economic situation of the country, the company grew and the new Vado Ligure plant was inaugurated.
The inauguration, however, caused a short political clash between the Prime Minister Facta and the Socialist Deputy Tonello, who in a parliamentary question harshly criticized the official telegram sent by Facta to NAFTA on the occasion of the ceremony.
In the same year, the works for a coastal system in Venice also continued. The birth of a GIP created some disagreements between NAFTA and the Ministry of the National Economy, which in 1926 asked the prefects to subordinate the release of new concessions for the plant of petrol stations to an approval estimate of a GIP. The question was resolved peacefully in 1927 on the initiative of the Italian company itself. At the end of the decade, taking advantage of a particularly advantageous legislation, the company launched into the refining sector with the establishment of subsidiary companies in Westphalia. On 27 April 1939, Toxa left NAFTA after 20 years at the head of the company.
The company controlled about 20% of the Italian market at the time.
On 8 August 1940, following Italy's entry into the Second World War, NAFTA was seized and placed under the management of a GIP, followed the following year by the U.S. companies operating in Italy, SIAP, Vacuum, Texaco.
On 30 July 1942, foreign oil companies were officially transferred to a GIP, although the integration of their activities was somewhat complex and remained substantially unfinished.
On 22 October 1945, after the end of hostilities, the measures were abandoned and the NAFTA and the other companies, under the guidance of the Italian Petroleum Committee, returned to normal activity. In 1949, the company, now fully restored, was renamed Shell Italiana S.p.A. with a share capital of more than 2 billion lira.
Still in the early 1960s, Shell covered about 20% of the Italian oil needs.
The Italian Shell was the first company to be advertised with Carzello. In 1959, the company purchased the former Conda refinery of Rome. In 1967, it built a large plant in Taranto, whose works began in 1964 with an initial investment of 25 billion lire. Shell remained active in the country until April 1974 when, following difficulties in the oil sector caused by the Chipper War and the general conditions of the Italian economy, now not very favorable, the oil company was sold to Eni, which became Italiana Petroli IP.
The company then returned to the fuel distribution in 1980 with the acquisition of the Conoco network, while in 1987 the joint venture with Montanason, which led to the creation of Monte Shell.
In July 2014, Shell gave its network of service stations and fuel deposits in Italy to the Kuwait Petroleum Italia, Q8. In 2022, an agreement was announced with a PAD multi-EG company for the brand to be restored and Shell products to be sold in over 500 Italian service stations, the first of which was inaugurated in March 2022. In Italy today, Shell operates through Shell Italia S.p.A., controlled by Shell Italia Finanza S.p.A.
The main locations are in Sesto San Giovanni and Rome.
Shell discovered the first oil well in Borneo in 1910 in Miri, Sarawak.
Today, the oil well is a state monument known as the Grand Old Lady.
In 1914, following this discovery, Shell built Borneo's first oil refinery and laid a submarine pipeline in Miri. Shell began production in Nigeria in 1958.
In Nigeria, Shell told U.S. diplomats that it had placed staff in all the main ministries of the government.
Shell continues, however, upstream activities / extracting crude oil in the oil-rich Niger Delta as well as downstream / commercial activities in South Africa.
In June 2013, the company announced a strategic review of its operations in Nigeria, hinting that assets could be divested.
In August 2014, the company disclosed it was in the process of finalizing the sale of its interests in 4 Nigerian oil fields.
On 29 January 2021, a Dutch court ruled that Shell was responsible for multiple oil leaks in Nigeria.
The actions of companies like Shell has led to extreme environmental issues in the Niger Delta.
Many pipelines in the Niger Delta, owned by Shell, are old and corroded.
Shell has acknowledged its responsibility for keeping the pipelines new but has also denied responsibility for environmental causes.
The heavy contamination of the air, ground and water with toxic pollutants by the oil industry in the Niger Delta is often used as an example of ecocide.
This has led to mass protests from the Niger Delta inhabitants, Amnesty International, and Friends of the Earth the Netherlands against Shell.
It has also led to action plans to boycott Shell by environmental and human rights groups.
In January 2013, a Dutch court rejected 4 out of 5 allegations brought against the firm over oil pollution in the Niger Delta but found a subsidiary guilty of 1 case of pollution, ordering compensation to be paid to a Nigerian farmer. On 27 August 2007, Shell and Riken Group, the owner of the 7-Eleven brand in Scandinavia, announced an agreement to rebrand some 269 service stations across Norway, Sweden, Finland and Denmark. Subject to obtaining regulatory approvals under the different competition laws in each country.
In April 2010, Shell announced that the corporation is in process of trying to find a potential buyer for all of its operations in Finland and is doing similar market research concerning Swedish operations.
In October 2010, Shell's gas stations and the heavy vehicle fuel supply networks in Finland and Sweden, along with a refinery located in Gothenburg, Sweden, were sold to Street One, a Finnish energy company. More precisely to its major shareholding parent company Q-Oil. Through most of Shell's early history, Shell USA business in the United States was substantially independent.
Its stock was traded on the NYSE, and the group's central office had little direct involvement in running the operation.
However, in 1984, Shell made a bid to purchase those shares of Shell Oil Company it did not own, around 30%, and, despite opposition from some minority shareholders, which led to a court case, Shell completed the buyout for a sum of $5.7 billion. Royal Dutch Shell operates in the Philippines under its subsidiary, Filipina Shell Petroleum Corporation or PSPC.
Its headquarters is in Taguig and it has facilities in the Pandacan Oil Depot and other key locations.
In January 2010, the Bureau of Customs claimed 7.34 billion pesos worth of unpaid excise taxes against Filipina Shell for importing catalytic cracked gasoline, CCG, and light catalytic cracked gasoline, LCCG, stating that those imports are bound for tariff charges. In August 2016, Filipina Shell filed an application to sell US $629 million worth of primary and secondary shares to the investing public, registration statement, with the SEC.
This was a prelude to filing its IPO listing application with the Philippine Stock Exchange.
On 3 November 2016, the Filipina Shell Petroleum Corporation was officially listed on the Philippine Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol SHLPH after they held its initial public offering on 19 to 25 October of the same year. Due to the economic slowdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic on the global, regional and local economies, continually low refining margins, and competition with imported refined products, the management of Filipina Shell announced in August 2020 that the 110,000 barrel per day refinery in Taguig, the Tangas, which started operations in 1962, will be shutting down permanently and turned into an import terminal instead. In February 2022, Shell exited all its joint ventures with Gazprom because of the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, and in March 2022, Shell announced that it would stop buying oil from Russia and close all its service stations there.
In April 2022, it emerged that Shell was to book up to $5 billion in impairment charges from exiting its interests in Russia.
Singapore is the main center for Shell's petrochemical operations in the Asia-Pacific region.
Shell Eastern Petroleum Limited, SEPL, have their refinery located in Singapore's Pulau Bukom Island.
They also operate a Shell Chemical Syria in Jurong Island.
In November 2020, Shell announced that, as part of efforts to curtail pollution emissions, it will cut its oil processing capacity in Singapore.
In the UK sector of the North Sea, Shell employs around 4,500 staff in Scotland as well as an additional 1,000 service contractors. However, in August 2014 it announced it was laying off 250 of them, mainly in Aberdeen.
Shell paid no UK taxes on its North Sea operations over the period 2018 to 2021. We will continue about Shell in final part, so stay tuned for more.